It's so great to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining with me and sharing your story and all that you've learned since you were saved.
Well, thanks, Doreen. Wait a minute. I'm not saved. Oh, you meant
Oh,
her.
it's such a joy to be on, and I'm just so thankful to be saved and to be sitting here with you today, praising God for that.
I haven't said this disclaimer in quite a while, so here it is. Obviously, I speak for myself, not for any magical order, coven, or circle. My opinions are my own. I hold no animosity towards those I respond to in my videos, and I'm always open to civil and respectful conversations. There are many Christians out there who are decent people, who don't lie about others nor try and make occultists look evil. Yes, I know it's about time I did a video on the ex-crystal hippie from the planet Batshit Cray Cray. I really wasn't surprised when I heard she renounced the New Age movement. She wrote books about angels and was cashing in on the New Age boom. I knew she was full of it back in the 90s, and I'm guessing she's still full of it now. But this video isn't about Miss Virtue. It's a video response to this lady, Jack Marino. She claims she was initiated into the original Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and practiced magic in a Freemasonic lodge. Oh, and she was immediately initiated after meeting some random guy in a cafe, skipping the outer order entirely and going right into the inner order and practicing ritual magic. Nothing fishy about this story. No siree. Everything is on the up and up. Besides, Christians would never lie. I'm also curious to see how closely this conversion testimony matches the 700 Club's conversion script. We'll have to see. So let's go over these 7 stages of conversion to Christianity, shall we? The 7 stages of conversion are: 1. Right path. Was on the right path, was Christian, Catholic. Problems. Encountered problems, drugs, abuse, parents, breaking the law. Rebels against authority, family, God. Explores, dabbles in witchcraft or the occult. Bad experience, got scared, experienced demon, evil. Finds God, turns life over to Jesus, God. Life is fixed. Life is fantastic. She jumps right in at stage 1, so she's not wasting any time. Sit back and enjoy the nonsense as we listen in on this testimony from New Age to Christianity and all places between.
When I was little, my parents went to a church, and I went to preschool at that church, and I thought I knew who Jesus was. I believed that Jesus was Lord, but I didn't have a real biblical understanding of what that meant.
One thing I have noticed about these conversion stories is that they usually come from rather religious backgrounds to begin with, making me question how sincere Jack's supposed conversion was.
When I was 5, my parents separated because my dad had a drug addiction and alcohol problem.
Your mom left this guy? What a surprise. Yeah, he looks like he was going through a phase, all right.
And also around that time, I was sexually abused by someone close to me, but not in my immediate family.
With all that pain and with all that trauma, what did you do to cope?
Doreen is gently pushing her along, something that will be recurring throughout this testimony.
And so I really tried to take control of my life by suppressing memories and by wanting to have some sort of control over my reality by letting myself define what the truth is.
So many of these conversion stories mention wanting to have control or power, and when witchcraft, New Age, or the occult does not give said power, they cast it aside, as if control and power are the only benefits one would desire. They expect so much and treat it as a panacea for all their problems in life. When it doesn't meet these expectations, they toss it away like a child bored with an old toy. I say good riddance. If what you want out of studying the occult is the ability to alter reality or gain wealth and power with zero effort, then you will be disappointed.
I just so wish that starting from the beginning, I had a real biblical understanding of who God is, that I could have had that to stand on and to know that I don't need to try to take control of my life because God is a good God and he's truly in control.
I don't think she ever stopped being a Christian. All of her experiences are through a very Christian lens.
So you had an eating disorder, you were acting out sexually, you were just trying to control your life and your thoughts. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but New Age is all about thought control.
Mhm.
And so that kind of background that you had probably made you ripe for New Age deception.
New Age deception. Why do some Christians have to be so hyperbolic when it comes to other beliefs? Can't they just be honest and say, hey, got into New Age and found out it wasn't for me? Instead, they have to make it so dramatic and throw shade.
And when I was young, I had experiences where at the time I thought they were angels, but once I learned about UFOs, I was like, oh, well, that must be what it is. And these entities, like, I'm special to them. It gave me another form of maybe control, but it also really started to mold my worldview.
There's that expectation of control again. So you thought aliens were your friend. Okay, this still has nothing to do with the occult. This is all you and your desire for control. Amazing that this didn't work out the way you wanted it to. I, for one, am shocked.
That continued going on as I grew up until I started to have an understanding that they were dark is maybe the word I would have thought. But at that point, I decided to follow this entity and go back to being who I really was later. It felt like there was too much for me to deal with. And so I'll be a good person later. I still have time, but for now I'm going to follow this path and see where it leads me.
So you felt that aliens were dark and that you would follow them for a while and repent later. I mean, you'll be a good person later. I know some Christians like Hugh Ross wrongly associate UFOs with supposed demons because, well, why not?
Close the doors to occult activity. That will be the end of these UFO experiences.
Demonic spirits that are causing this phenomenon? Is it?
I'm convinced that they're demonic. And again, I'm not alone in drawing this conclusion amongst scientists who've studied this phenomena.
Taken into a spacecraft and carried into other places. Are demon spirits doing that actually, you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're actually being physically taken into a physical craft.
Okay.
It's the demons taking control of them where they begin to think that this is what's happened to them.
Even though there is no actual credible evidence or actual peer-reviewed studies to prove this hypothesis, you are just regurgitating this fallacy without qualifying it first. Also, on a side note, if I knew someone who was acting out knowing it was bad, but thought to themselves they would be good later, I would avoid that person. They are being disingenuous, and even worse, they are lying to themselves.
Okay, so it sounds like you were looking for self-worth and love and validation.
Definitely.
And these beings, and I can relate because I thought I was talking to God's angels too. So got the t-shirt for that. And then UFOs were mixed into that, where you were, it sounds like you were seeing lights coming down or something, right? And yeah, that's, as we both know, those are demons.
Again, no actual evidence, no peer-reviewed study, absolutely no credible verification for this hypothesis. And yet, this unsubstantiated BS is spreading through the Christian community like a virus. Thanks, Hugh Ross.
So you decided there was one demon in particular that you decided to consciously follow and get into this path?
Yes. At that time, I don't think I would have thought of it as one demon in particular, but that in that one situation, it was just one, but it was the whole kind of following that path or that deviant mindset.
We all know that Christian extremists like Doreen label all pre-Christian gods as demons, but you can see the subtle push on her part to feed into this narrative. I wonder how she would feel if pagans belittled Jesus and called him demonic. Would they gain empathy, or would they just carry on bashing other beliefs? I would place my bet on the latter. And Jack, you consciously chose to do these things that you believe to be of a deviant mindset. Will you be accepting any personal responsibility for your choices, or will you just play the blame game?
I never wanted to drink or do drugs because I'd seen what that led to in my dad's life. I knew I didn't want to end up there. And so I said I was never going to drink or do drugs, but ultimately not having a real relationship with God and not having anywhere to take this yoke to take my burden to.
Your conscious decision to abuse drugs and alcohol has nothing to do with New Age or the occult.
And my best friend started drinking and doing drugs, and so did our friends. And it got to the point where I just figured it wasn't worth it to me to hold on to this maybe moralistic thing that I wanted, if it meant losing the identity that I had in my friends.
So, during your teenage to young adult life, you gave in to peer pressure and got into drugs and alcohol. It's fairly typical and has absolutely nothing to do with the occult. This video is titled From Occult to Jesus, how Jack Marino was saved out of a demonic secret society. Nothing about how Jack Marino got into drugs and alcohol because of a troubled past. I really shouldn't be surprised, as this is the typical throw shade at others conversion script, and the dark, evil extent of her demonic experience will be a bump in the night and a feeling of uneasiness. That's it.
And I was able to escape myself, and that had been what I'd been looking for throughout my life, was just to get out of my body and escape myself. For anyone going through the same thing, it's just so important to have a biblical understanding of who Jesus is, because I would have said I was a Christian. I was offended if anyone said I wasn't a Christian.
You would get offended if someone said you weren't a Christian? How would you feel if someone called your God a demon and laid claims that your belief system was evil without any factual evidence? Would that offend you also? But please, continue judging others' beliefs, Jack.
So you were on this really dark path with drugs, alcohol, doing whatever it took to make your friends happy with you, kind of making friends with the world,
Right.
and instead of friends with God.
We're only 14 minutes into the video and still nothing to do with the occult, and she's got to lay the groundwork. Otherwise, her negative portrayal of the occult won't have the same impact.
What else was going on when you were on this very dark path?
Doreen doesn't mess around. She knows they are on the clock. Please, tell us more about this dark path you were on and how you can blame your poor choices on others.
In high school, the book The Secret came out.
The Secret? Well, it's not that dark, but let's see how she spins it.
Taking my deep desire to have a control over my reality with that, the supernatural experiences that I had had since childhood, with this book coming out that's in Barnes & Noble.
There you go again, looking for control over your reality. What did your desires have to do with this book? And what do you have against Barnes & Noble? Did you get fired from there for being high or drunk on the job? This isn't the only time she mentions them. She will bring them up again later.
And you can manifest the life of your dreams. And that was so alluring to me, because I desperately wanted to create my own reality. I didn't want my life. I didn't want to deal with the things that had happened in my life. And instead, I just wanted to create my own reality, which, I think has to do with Disney too, and just how Disney lied to us about making our dreams a reality. But
wow, you have some serious expectations. You wanted to change your reality. The Secret was an interesting movie and later a book, but there is no law of attraction. There's the magical concept of like attracts like, or sympathetic magic. But The Secret reminds me of the axiom, buyer beware. If it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is. Disney lied to you? You mean Mickey Mouse didn't conjure life into inanimate objects that did his bidding? Pumpkins don't transform into carriages? Disney adapts folktales into amusing cartoons for children. If you are expecting these dreams to come true, then that's your fault, not Disney's. Disney peddles fantasy, make-believe, and creates things that are
not real.
Thanks, Chad.
as I continued down this path and ended up going deep into the New Age and the occult, this was really my indoctrination into it, because this and some things I saw on Disney and just my past of experiences made me going deeper and deeper not seem that bad, because it had already been introduced to me in such a almost harmless way, it seemed.
The book, The Secret, and Disney indoctrinated you into the occult? New Age is not the same as the occult. You really have a hate boner for Disney, too. Did they fire you for being high or drunk on the job, too? Did Mickey Mouse hold a gun to your head and tell you to buy The Secret? Neither New Age nonsense nor the occult are inherently bad or harmful. Stage 4 already. She's moving along.
So your introduction into the occult was through the very popular at that time book, The Secret?
Psst, Jack, that's your cue.
Yes.
So The Secret has kind of rules, right? You have to stay positive all the time.
Either stay positive or the New Age thought police will come after you. Good thing Christianity doesn't punish you for thinking certain bad thoughts.
How was that for you?
Man, it is really hard trying to be your own God.
Thinking positive thoughts makes you a god? How did you make this leap of assumption?
Because I just continually failed. It was so frustrating. If I'd ever think a negative thought or if anything bad happened, then it was my fault for thinking that negative thought. So it just turned into this war with my mind. I could never get it quite right. And it's bondage at the end of the day. But I really, really wanted it to work.
The Secret has rules? I did not know it was so dogmatic. You know, not every book that is written is accurate, right? Anyone can write a book and get it published. There are plenty of books out there filled with all sorts of nonsense or are based off crappy research. Just because a book is filled with bizarre rules doesn't mean you have to follow them. Haven't you heard of the gullible rule? That 1 out of every 10 people are gullible enough to fall for anything? You might want to look into it. I just so happen to have written a book about it. It explains everything. Only $49.99, shipping and handling not included, and no refunds.
Did it involve visualizing, affirmations? What other tools did they give you?
Why do I feel like she's leading her? And what is wrong with Doreen? Why does she have that odd tic? Does she have some neurological disorder? I sure hope she's okay.
There was just a lot of promises to give me everything I wanted and that it works every time. It does work, but if it doesn't, it's your fault because you didn't think the right thoughts or you're feeling negative feelings. And so it ultimately makes you God, but that's a bad thing because we make terrible gods.
Oh, I disagree. I would make a great god. First, I would write down rules to only worship me, not to use my name in vain. And if you question me or go against me, you will suffer for eternity in some fiery realm of torment. But I would be a loving God. And what is your obsession with this book? If you don't agree with it, then throw it away or donate it to someone.
I remember in the New Age, because I was very afraid of having a negative thought because
Doreen, you're probably afraid of your own shadow.
The belief was if you have some negative thought, you're going to attract something really bad. And so I ended up being phobic of negativity, which in itself is negative.
I agree. That sounds really stupid. We have thoughts all the time. Some are positive, some are negative, and some are just outright freaking weird. Of course, that might just be my thoughts.
And I just wanted to circle back because you mentioned Disney a couple times. And so let's talk about that in depth. How did Disney affect you?
Is she going to accept any responsibility for her actions, or is she going to continually blame others? She blames this book, Barnes & Noble, and Disney. If you expected such fantastic and imaginary events to occur as those in Fantasia or Snow White or any other Disney movie, I hate to break it to you, but Disney is in the business of selling fantasy to kids. Most kids understand this to be make-believe. Well, almost all kids.
I think it's interesting how they put it in small children's minds. Sorcery, magic, there's so much sorcery and magic, and just believing that if you wish upon a star, like you can make your dreams come true.
Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
So much of it reminded me so much of ultimately some of the darkest corners of the occult.
The darkest corners of the occult? Yes, those dark corners where even angels fear to tread.
When I did end up joining a really intense occult order, as I was driving there, I was listening to Phantasmic, which is a Disney show at Disneyland, but because it all made sense now, the way that they were transmuting the darkness and the whole show made sense to me now.
So you joined some Mickey Mouse occult order, huh? Well, it can happen to the best of us. Transmuting darkness, that sounds very metaphorical, like a sinner repenting. Are you sure it wasn't based off Christian themes of repentance? Many artists use themes from the occult, Christianity, Buddhism, paganism, etc. Christian-based iconography and themes are very prevalent in modern art and storytelling, but it does not mean that everyone who watches Ben-Hur or Moses will become a Christian, nor will kids who watch Fantasia become Satan worshippers. I watched about 2.5 episodes of Fantasmic. It was just a circle jerk of past Disney movies with actors in makeup and animal suits dancing around.
It is amazing to me and sad, honestly, that when we think that our children aren't affected by growing up with sorcery being glamorized, and then later it's like, well, why would me getting a witchcraft book at Barnes & Noble be bad? Like, I grew up around it. It kind of desensitizes, in my opinion, it desensitizes
Yes.
us
Yeah.
to magic.
It does. A lot of people are not aware that Walt Disney was a 33-degree Freemason and of the Scottish Rite.
Wow, they are really laying it on thick. And again, mentioning Barnes & Noble carrying certain books, do you hope the CEO will see this video and ban all New Age, occult, and witchcraft books? Wow, how authoritarian of you. That's what we need, more censorship. Why not just burn the books? That's always worked out so well in the past. And no, Doreen, Walt Disney was not a 33rd degree Mason. He wasn't even a Freemason. When he was growing up, he was a member of the Order of De Molay, a youth organization sponsored by Freemasons. But there is no record of Walt Disney becoming a Mason. If he did, and he was, so what? I really don't understand these religious fanatics and their hatred of Freemasons. Freemasons do so much charity work that maybe some Christians feel outdone. They hate them so much that they are willing to lie and spread false rumors. It's sick. Really. It's really, really sick. It is not a good look for Christians.
You saw the symbology in the Disney show because you were part of this order. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Keep leading the conversation, Doreen. Did this order have rituals of people dancing around in animal costumes and light shows?
Disney makes witchcraft and sorcery seem innocent and attractive. And so if it's okay with Disney, it must be okay. Like you said, desensitizes children.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Okay, slow down there, Miss Virtue. Children, as they grow up, understand that Disney is pure fantasy and that the folklore and myths that Disney ripped off are just that, fiction. Just like they will grow up to realize Santa is not real, the Easter Bunny is not real, and that God is
not real.
Now, if they grow up asking what lies behind these myths, why a rabbit lays eggs around the equinox, then they might get into researching the source of these things.
Let's talk about this occult order that you got into. So it was a segue from The Secret.
That's right. She's on the path to be hooked on Satan. And it all started so innocent. Strolling down an aisle of Barnes & Noble, a wrong turn, and whammo, she found herself face to face with The Secret. If only they would have banned New Age books, another soul could have been saved. Instead, she is wearing a shirt with no pants on in some Mickey Mouse occult order.
My thinking, oh, I'm a Christian. I was more spiritual at that point than Christian. He really didn't believe. And so I idolized this man. He became like a god to me.
She meets a guy, adopts his belief, idolizes him, and thinks of him as a god. Gee, was the D that good? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Throw drugs and alcohol and unprotected sex in, and we have a Christian after-school special on abortion.
During that time, I was really into the spirit science and metaphysics. So it's cool to see all the connections, seeing people get saved out of that.
Like Stephen Bankar's out of Spirit Science, yeah.
Yes.
And right now we're going to go through a list of things that should be burnt, things that should be burnt, things that should be burnt, that should be burnt, that should be burnt.
I have done a video response to Stephen Bankar's. I've done a video response to Stephen. He is a disturbing individual who promotes burning occult objects. I do not suggest burning things, as the smoke from certain plastics and other materials can be toxic and bad for the environment. If you really feel the need to destroy other religions' sacred objects and or texts, might I suggest breaking them with a hammer or tearing them up? Or you could time travel to 1930s Germany.
I had just moved to Hollywood to be closer to him, and I was just kind of left in the studio apartment. I felt like my entire identity had been ripped from me. I was being very manipulated, and I just kind of lost it because I was like, wow, I don't know who I am at all. I'm so addicted now to drugs and alcohol. Like, I hated who I was. And I had lost my sanity, or I was beginning to really lose my sanity. We'd started doing psychedelic drugs and just a lot more demonic experiences.
You had a demonic experience while you were on psychedelic drugs? Weird. I don't think I have ever heard of that happening before. Just going to throw this out there, but maybe that was the drugs playing with your imagination.
Then what happened? You got involved with a group at that point?
I did. I knew that there was a power there. I knew it was bad.
You knew it was bad, but you made a conscious decision to continue anyways. Does your testimony actually involve anything even close to the occult, or is it all just bad drug trips while watching Disney movies? Have you ever listened to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon while watching The Wizard of Oz? That urban legend might be before your time. Damn, I'm old.
There were a lot of things going on in my life. Like my dad was homeless at that time, and just so many things that I just lost it. And so I started opening myself up more to these entities. I began being led by an entity called Thoth or Toth. And
oh yeah, Tehote, yeah. Also known as Merlin in Celtic spirituality and known as Hermes,
right.
the winged messenger in Greco-Roman spirituality. Yeah.
I guess you could associate Merlin with Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, but that would be more the Arthurian legend rather than Celtic. Although some scholars debate whether Merlin was based on a real character, possibly a druid figure, we tend to be skeptical in viewing mythology as history.
I knew that I wasn't getting any better. I was still just as addicted, and I was losing my mind. So I was led to these Thoth tarot cards that were made by Aleister Crowley, and I knew that Aleister Crowley was known as one of the most wicked men to have ever lived.
Aleister Crowley commissioned Lady Frida Harris to design the Thoth Tarot deck, and the media labeled him as the wickedest man in the world. This is not true. Aleister Crowley was the third wickedest man in the entire world, with Charlie Chaplin taking first place.
I was just continually, again, because I had never read the Bible. I didn't know truth.
Wait, you never read the Bible?
And so I became just obsessed with these tarot cards and doing them all the time and dreaming about them. And
what is it with you saved Christians and your obsession with tarot cards? If you had an unhealthy relationship with these objects, that is your obsession.
To make years into a short thing, I just kept searching. Things were glowing. One of the days, the thing that was glowing was this Freemason lodge.
So it's not very clear what she meant by glowing. She earlier spoke of lucid dreaming and astral projection. I don't know if this Freemason lodge was in a dream or she saw it in one of her alleged astral projection sessions. I highly doubt this woman actually practiced either astral projection or lucid dreaming.
I reached out to them to join, and they let me know only men could be Freemasons, but there were offshoots. Like the Eastern Star and women offshoots. But I told myself I couldn't be in the Order of the Eastern Star because they had a pentagram. And so just these little things I was making.
I remember having that same rule. It's so,
really,
yeah. I couldn't get
wild.
into witchcraft or pentagrams. I completely relate to what you're saying.
Pentagrams, or any five-pointed star, is not unique to only witchcraft, Satanism, or the Eastern Star. They should be viewed in context, just like any other common icon or image. Same thing with triangles, circles, squares, or equilateral crosses.
The order on the back of my cards, the Thoth or Toth tarot cards, said the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I'd really felt drawn to that, but I told myself, well, I can't do that because of Aleister Crowley's connection. He used to be in it.
Yes, Aleister Crowley was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and his relationship with other prominent members, well, let's just say it caused a little turmoil, although I am sure locksmiths near 36 Blythe Street were quite amused. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn dissolved in 1903.
I just kept being led back to it, and so the people who started the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn were Freemasons. So then it was another connection. And finally, I just got to a point where I kept being led back, and it seemed like I was being led back to this door and I just needed to go through it. And so I called them. I met the guy at a coffee shop in LA, and every single thing he was talking to me about, well, first of all, it was the first time where someone just seemed so familiar and we were clearly on the same page. And everything he was talking to me about, from, the emerald tablets to astrology to ancient Egyptian mythology. Everything was everything that I had been led to. And so I was like, yes, someone's speaking my language. This is it. And so he told me to meet him at the Freemason Lodge to be initiated into the order. And so I went, and there was like a woman waiting at the top of the stairs in like a black robe with a candle. And it was just very like in the movies kind of thing.
I'll take shit that never happened for $300, Alex. This is highly suspicious. As I mentioned earlier, the original order dissolved in 1903. The rituals and training materials were later published to the public. I'm not an expert on the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, but it is my understanding that no legitimate, and I'm using air quotes, orders branched off. So I don't know what this order claimed to be or from what lineage it stemmed. It is very odd that this man you met would offer initiation after a brief meeting at a cafe. Also, it is bizarre that they would do so at a free Masonic lodge. Many Masonic lodges offer to rent their space out for gatherings or special events. Any legitimate order, group, or circle will not offer initiation so quickly, but instead allow themselves to be vetted and build trust with potential candidates. This man could have taken advantage of you, and you are lucky he didn't.
This is what I've been trained for my whole life. It made so much sense to me from the Disney to the law of attraction. All of it just had been leading me to this moment, because what I was learning about magic in the occult was the same thing as the law of attraction, only the law of attraction was just watered down ritual magic.
The secret is watered down ritual magic. I don't think you understand what ritual magic is. Traditionally, only the inner order practiced magic and the outer order learned magic.
Because I had been desensitized to it, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But I could tell that it was dark because it just was.
You could tell it was dark because it just was? How did Disney desensitize you to anything? You are so blatantly trying to throw shade on Barnes & Nobles for carrying certain books and trying to paint Disney with negative associations because they use myth and folklore and play with fantastical themes. If bigoted Christians such as yourself spent half the energy you do on bashing other beliefs and practices and channeling that toward becoming more Christ-like, you would be a freaking saint in no time.
And so I was initiated into this order, but I was really excited because they were saying that you have to go into the darkness to shine the light of knowledge in it. And so the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was a lot of Kabbalah, Wicca, Gnosticism, just Hinduism, a bunch of stuff mashed together. And it really excited me to be in this order, learning all these things, practicing ritual magic, invoking the ancient Egyptian deities like Thoth, but I still wasn't getting what I was looking for.
Gerald Gardner's form of witchcraft that came to be known as Wicca, and the later many Wicca subsets, was formed in the 1930s. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn did not use Wicca, nor was it composed of Gardner's practice. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was based in the Western occult tradition, Rosicrucianism and Kabbalists. Your story has many holes in it and raises many questions. I don't know who has been filling your head with these inconsistencies, but you would be well advised to question their accuracy.
My grandpa had come to visit me out of nowhere, and he had sat my cousin and I down and said, what's your relationship with God like? And I was so prideful and excited to tell him all the things that I'd been learning. And so I probably said, I've been reading this religious book and this one and this one, and I'm so much closer to God now because I'm opening my eyes to these other paths. And he just said, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. And that shook me so much. Like, I was so mad, but I was physically shaking because I knew it was true, and that terrified me. But in my mind, I was so angry that he would have the gall to say that to me, and how judgmental. But it didn't matter, even though for a while that ruined our relationship, because as I'm in the Freemason Lodge practicing magic, the Lord is like, his word doesn't return void. It accomplishes what he wills it to successfully. And
Yes.
it was just echoing in me. And then because of Kabbalah, I had been reading parts of the Bible, and I read that you can tell a tree by its fruit. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that the fruit that I was seeing from these leaders was bad fruit.
Mm.
And I also read that Satan masquerades himself as an angel of light. And that one really got me, because
Yeah.
I kept telling myself, how can this be bad if it seems good? And so
You claim to have been a Christian before you found The Secret at Barnes & Noble's, and yet you had no concept of what the basic tenets of Christianity were and never read the Bible? I grew up in a secular household, and yet even I knew the basic tenets of Christianity. I also don't believe that this order is practicing magic in a Masonic lodge. I could be mistaken, but I don't believe you, and I think you are stitching together a story piecemeal from things you may have heard.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the Freemasons, they seem to be very charitable. They seem to do a lot of good and help children and such, and so that's what people focus on, as opposed to focusing on what they're actually teaching people.
The Freemasons do a great deal of charity work and claim to make men better. They do not push religious or political agendas in the lodge. Members have a concept of a higher power, but whether a member is a Christian, Jew, Muslim, or simply theistic doesn't matter. Their rituals are private, even though you can find them online nowadays.
again, like, it's hard because as a woman, I couldn't be a Freemason. So even though I can't speak for Freemasonry, I can say that we use their ritual rooms, and their symbolism was the same as ours. And the people who started the Golden Dawn were Freemasons. So the connections are so deep, and that there's a very clear relation to the two.
Yep. Yeah, we
And-
want to be very, very cautious to stay away from anyone who is a 33-degree Mason. Of course, that's why Disney had the Club 33, because of the 33, which is number 6, of course.
Doreen is just filled with bad information. The Disney Clubhouse is called 33 because of the address of 33 Royal Street in the New Orleans Square at Disneyland. And Walt Disney was not a Freemason. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was started to explore the Western occult tradition.
And Pastor Chris Roseborough has been cataloging some of the very popular professing Christian teachers who are actually 33-degree Freemasons. It'll shock you.
Oh, good. His own little modern-day witch hunt. That doesn't sound Orwellian at all. There's a witch, a 33rd-degree Mason. Burn them!
It's just this infiltration.
Infiltration? Freemasons are not on YouTube making up lies and throwing shade at any religion, let alone Christianity. That is you and your paranoid, delusional assumptions based off bad information and straight-up lies.
Then it comes through the New Age, the secret, the law of attraction, and ultimately, because all this deception is like a progressive disease, they get worse and worse and worse. It leads to people getting into the occult and Satan worship.
Oh my God, The Secret is a gateway drug to Satanism. Who would have known such a poorly researched book would have such an effect on others? I love how Doreen associates all these things together. New Age, occult, Freemasons, and of course Satanism. Even though all these things are very distinct and different from each other. It's like saying Buddhism and Christianity are the same thing. They are not.
It's amazing. And so as I was in that order and the Lord is convicting me, I just really had no peace. But I was so prideful that I continued doing it. And then one night I just remembered the lie that Satan told in the garden, that if you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you'll become like God, knowing good and evil. And that was really the premise in the occult, is that the duality of light and darkness, and that if you eat from the tree of good and evil, you'll have the secret knowledge and become like God.
I am not sure how much confidence you should place on this Mickey Mouse order that some guy initiated you into, but as an occultist, I see the potential for good and evil inside of me. The greatest evils are often cloaked in the greater good. However, I qualify that by saying I see, as the occult is not a source of morality to every person who studies it.
But one night I was walking across my apartment, and it was just like any other night. but I collapsed to my knees in like a spiritual attack. And I heard myself cry out, Jesus Christ, save me. And whatever was attacking me was just gone. And I felt this peace that I'd been looking for my entire life. Got out my Bible from under the bed. For the first time, I knew I could get sober, which was amazing to me. I never thought I could.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. And you are speeding through these steps so fast.
And actually, I saw something that you posted today about, like, why would we pray to the moon and the stars when we have the God of the universe?
Right.
And he's such a better God than you could ever be.
I would be a pretty good God, as long as no one questions me, turns away from me, or uses my name in vain.
Praise the Lord. What a redemption story. I'm so excited to talk with you about this and to share this with others who will relate, and also to warn people that, you get into the New Age through these seemingly innocent sounding ways, like the book, The Secret. And then it just leads you down this darker and darker path because you become addicted to wanting that power and wanting to manifest and attract and to be a powerful healer. And it just leads you through one door and another door and another door until you're in the occult before you know it. And it's a trap.
Right. It really is.
One day you're at Barnes & Noble's reading The Secret, then the next day you're being initiated into some Mickey Mouse order, learning that man ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Such a senseless tragedy that could have easily been avoided if only certain books would have been banned, and if only Disney would stick to approved Christian themes.
I just went to Barnes & Noble the other day, and there's like a witchcraft section. It's everywhere.
But you filed a complaint with the regional office, right, Karen?
I'm glad that we finally pushed the button and made this happen because your story needs to be heard.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for letting me come on and talk with you.
Is there anything else that you want to share with anyone who's watching who may be in the New Age or the occult right now?
I would just say that if you're practicing astrology or some of the things that you would think aren't that big of a deal, or justifying it, saying, well, it's not really divination or it's not really this, just to really encourage you to read Deuteronomy 18, or really just, if you've never read the Bible for yourself, read the Bible.
Deuteronomy, huh? Which version of the Bible and in which language? You know what? I'll just read from the KJV because that seems to be the most accepted version you Christian extremist lunatics accept as the truth.
That's amazing. That's the gospel. That's the truth. And we need to repent, meaning turn from our sins, turn from our rebellion against God, and turn to God.
Yikes, the Matrix is glitching again. Somebody call Walt Disney.
And believe in who Jesus is, and we will be saved. And having a true understanding, a biblical understanding of who Jesus is.
No time for that. Call Bob Larson. We got a demon possession here.
Spirit, you will not go until I tell you where to go. You will not go until I tell you where to go. Go to torment. Brian, come back. Brian, come back.
Is so important to walk in this world, to really truly put on the armor of God and be prepared to test the spirits and to have a biblical understanding of what we're facing in the world around us. So
we're facing a demon possession right now.
I need an old priest and a young priest. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
Yes.
Amen. Well said, sister. For the gospel. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We're so pleased and blessed to hear how God has worked in your life.
Thank you.
Whoa, hello. Okay. Sick as a dog now. Okay. Gonna
That's the end of this video. Thank you all so very much for watching, and please, if you ever want to join a coven, a circle, or some Mickey Mouse order, please vet it first and get to know them before joining. I will see you in hell, you heathens.